He didn't come.
I'm Charlotte. I'm 22 years old. And 2 weeks ago, I collapsed on stage in front of 3,000 people. It happened on the biggest day of my life. The day I was supposed to give my valedictorian speech. 1 second I was standing at the podium trying to smile through the pain in my head. The next second the world tilted sideways. Then everything went black. Later the doctors told me I had a brain tumor. They said if they hadn't operated immediately, I might not have survived. Fun fact for anyone Googling this at 2 a.m. like I did afterward. Most brain tumors found in young adults turn out to be benign, meaning non-cancerous. But benign doesn't mean harmless. Mine was still pressing on parts of my brain that needed to not be pressed on. They tried calling my parents. Nobody answered. 3 days later, I woke up in a hospital bed surrounded by machines, wires, and beeping sounds. The first thing I saw wasn't my family. It wasn't worried faces. It wasn't flowers. It was an Instagram post from my sister. My whole family was smiling in front of the Rialto Bridge in Venice. The caption said, "Family trip in Venice. Finally no stress. No drama." While I was lying unconscious after brain surgery, I didn't cry. I didn't call them. I didn't even comment. But a few days later my phone exploded with missed calls. 65 calls from my dad, 23 texts. Not one of them asked if I was okay. Not one said sorry. They only said one thing. "We need you." That's when I realized something. They weren't calling because they loved me. They were calling because they needed something from me. But before I tell you why, let me take you back 4 weeks earlier, to the moment everything started falling apart. 4 weeks before graduation, I was standing in my childhood kitchen while my mum, Diane, flipped through wedding magazines. Not for me. For my older sister Victoria, who'd just gotten engaged. Suddenly the entire world revolved around her. "Charlotte, can you pick up the custom napkins tomorrow?" Mum asked without even looking at me. "I have finals tomorrow. You'll manage." "Victoria's busy." That was always the answer. I would manage. I always did. I'd been managing for years, working 25 hours a week at a coffee shop while keeping a perfect GPA, paying my own tuition with scholarships and tips, while my parents paid for everything Victoria needed without asking a single question. I stood there holding my backpack. "Mom, I actually wanted to talk to you about graduation. I need a dress for the ceremony. Maybe we could go shopping this weekend." Her eyes drifted back to the magazines. "You're so good at finding deals online, sweetie. I'm sure you'll figure something out. But graduation is next week. And your sister's engagement party is in 2 weeks, Mum snapped. "That's what matters right now." He nodded. I always nodded. That night, folding laundry, I heard Mum on the phone downstairs. "Oh, Charlotte's valedictorian," she said proudly. For one tiny second my heart lifted. Then she laughed. "But honestly, the timing is terrible. Victoria's engagement is happening at the same time. And obviously that takes priority." I pause. "Charlotte understands. She's always been independent." Independent. That was the word they used instead of loved. Instead of noticed. Instead of important. That night I called the only person who ever truly saw me. My grandfather, Edmund. "Charlie girl," he said, picking up on the second ring. "I was just thinking about you." The second I heard his voice, my chest loosened. I told him everything. How scared I was, how I kept rewriting my speech to make it perfect, how exhausted I felt, how my head had been hurting for days. He listened to every word. Then he said softly, "Your grandmother would be so proud of you." I swallowed hard. I never met Grandma Eleanor, she died before I was born, but everyone always said I looked exactly like her. Same dark hair, same eyes, same stubborn face. "I'll be there at graduation," Grandpa promised. "Front row." Then, "Charlotte, I have something for you. Your grandmother wanted you to have it when you graduated." Before I could ask what it was, Victoria burst into my room. "Did you use my dry shampoo?" "No." She rolled her eyes. "Congrats on the valedictorian thing, I guess." Then she walked out. Dry shampoo crisis apparently resolved without further casualties. Grandpa had heard everything. He didn't say a word. His silence said enough. 1 week before graduation, I was surviving on coffee, stress, and almost no sleep. Finals were done, my thesis submitted, and I was working double shifts because rent was due. My headaches kept getting worse. Every time I stood up too fast, the room spun. I told myself it was stress. Had to be stress. Mum called while I was cleaning tables at work. "Charlotte, I need you home this weekend." "I'm working." "Colin's sick." "Victoria needs help setting up for the engagement party." "What about what I need?" Silence. Then, "Don't be dramatic." I almost laughed. Dramatic. I was graduating top of my class after 4 years of running on fumes, and Victoria's party still mattered more. "Fine," I whispered. That night I had a nosebleed that lasted 15 minutes. I sat on the bathroom floor holding tissues against my nose while my head pounded, telling myself it was dry air. Nothing serious. Small medical note, since I wish someone had said this to me sooner. Persistent headaches combined with unexplained nosebleeds and dizziness are worth a doctor's visit, not a shrug. I shrugged for weeks. The next day my best friend Sophie showed up carrying Thai food, and one look at me was enough to make her frown. "You look awful." "Love you too." "When's the last time you slept?" "I sleep." "That's a lie." She sat across from me. "Charlotte, you're destroying yourself for people who don't even appreciate you." "They appreciate me." "Are they even coming to your graduation?" I opened my mouth then closed it. Honestly, I didn't know. Mum hadn't mentioned it in weeks. Dad kept forgetting the date. Victoria barely remembered I was valedictorian. "They'll come," I said weakly. Sophie sighed. "In 4 years they haven't shown up to a single award ceremony. Not one." She looked at me gently. "You don't have to keep setting yourself on fire to keep them warm." My eyes burned, but I still defended them. That was the sad part. No matter how badly they treated me, I still wanted them to love me. The engagement party arrived. I spent 6 straight hours setting up tables, hanging lights, carrying flowers, serving drinks. The backyard looked beautiful. White lights, expensive flowers, a cake that probably cost more than my rent. 40 guests wandered around laughing while Victoria stood in the center like a queen. Meanwhile, I was invisible. "More champagne over here," Mum shouted. I forced a smile and carried another tray through the crowd, my head throbbing so badly I could barely see straight. Then Victoria grabbed my arm. "Everyone, this is my little sister, Charlotte. Charlotte does everything around here. Seriously, I don't know what we'd do without her." Few people clapped. "She's going to be a teacher. Can you imagine? Wiping noses for a living." People laughed. "Oh, and she's graduating next week. Some speech thing." "Valedictorian," I said quietly. "Right." She waved her hand. "She's the smart one." Then she looked at her ring. "But smart doesn't buy designer handbags, does it?" More laughter. I walked into the kitchen before anyone could see my face, leaned against the counter, tried to breathe. That's when I noticed an older man watching me from across the room. Mr. Prescott, one of Grandpa's old friends. A second later my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Your grandfather should know how your family treats you." I looked up. Mr. Prescott raised his glass slightly, then turned away. After the party, I stood alone washing dishes while everyone else laughed in the living room. Mum walked in beaming. "I have wonderful news. We're all going to Venice." My hands froze underwater. "When?" "Next weekend. Marcus is paying for everything." "Next weekend. Graduation weekend." "My graduation is next Saturday." "I know, but the flights were already booked." "You're missing my graduation for a vacation." "Don't say it like that. I'm valedictorian, Mum. And you'll do amazing." She smiled like that fixed everything. "You don't need us there. You've always been independent." Dad appeared in the doorway. "Your sister needs support right now," he said quietly. "And I don't. You're stronger than Victoria." The room tilted. Pain exploded behind my eyes. Charlotte, you look pale, Mom said. I'm fine. I wasn't. I drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice. 3 days before graduation, I could barely get out of bed. Sophie called. They're seriously skipping your graduation for Venice. It's for Victoria's engagement. Stop defending them. I pressed my hand against my forehead. The pain was unbearable. That night I woke at 3 a.m. with blood pouring from my nose. I sat on the bathroom floor shaking. When it finally stopped, I looked in the mirror. I looked like a ghost. I should have gone to the hospital. All I could think was, 3 more days. Just survive 3 more days. The night before graduation, Grandpa called again. I'm driving down tonight. Booked a hotel near campus. You really don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice softened. Your grandmother left you something, Charlotte. I've waited years to give it to you. What is it? You'll see tomorrow. Oz. Did your father ever tell you I offered to pay for your college? I gave him money for both you and Victoria years ago. My stomach dropped. Dad told me you could only afford to help Victoria. Grandpa went silent. Then he sighed. That's not true. Questions spun through my head, but I was too exhausted to think. Graduation morning arrived. I woke up with another horrible headache. My phone buzzed, a text from Mum. Just landed in Venice. Have a great graduation, sweetie. Attached was a selfie of my whole family smiling at the airport. I stared at it for a long time, then locked my phone. Sophie picked me up. The second she saw me, she looked terrified. Charlotte, you're gray. I'm just nervous. No. Something's wrong. She forced me to eat half a granola bar in the car. I almost threw it back up. Campus was crowded with families carrying flowers and balloons, parents hugging their kids, everyone taking photos. I tried not to look at them. Then I saw Grandpa sitting in the front row, waiting, smiling proudly. For one small second I felt safe. Stage manager approached. You're up in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I could survive 10 minutes. I walked onto the stage. 3,000 people stared back at me. My cap felt too tight. The sun burned against my skin. And now, the announcer said, our valedictorian, Charlotte Hartley. Applause exploded through the stadium. I reached the podium. I found Grandpa in the crowd. Sophie beside him recording everything. 2 empty seats sat reserved for family. No one ever claimed them. I gripped the microphone. Thank you all for being here today. The words blurred. The stage tilted. My vision narrowed. Pain slammed through my skull. The microphone slipped from my fingers. Heard screaming. I saw Grandpa stand up, Sophie running toward the stage. Then darkness swallowed everything. Later Sophie told me what happened. The ambulance came 14 minutes later. Doctors rushed me through scans. Then a neurosurgeon walked into the waiting room. Brain tumor, he said. Sophie told me Grandpa went completely pale. We need surgery immediately. Sophie called my parents over and over. Oismo, Oismo, Oismo. Finally Grandpa reached Dad. Charlotte collapsed, he said. She has a brain tumor. She's going into surgery. Dad was silent. Then, we're about to board our flight. Grandpa stared at the phone. Your daughter might die. There's nothing we can do from here. Grandpa gave him one last warning. If you get on that plane, don't bother calling me again. But they boarded anyway. All of them. While I was being wheeled into brain surgery, Grandpa signed my surgery papers himself. Not my parents. My grandfather. I woke up 3 days later. The room was bright and cold. Grandpa was asleep beside my bed, still wearing his graduation suit. Sophie was curled up in a chair nearby. I tried to speak. Sophie woke immediately. Charlotte! She burst into tears. Grandpa grabbed my hand. My brave girl. What happened? I whispered. You had a brain tumor, Sophie said softly. But they got it out. I turned toward my phone. My parents. Sophie hesitated, then handed it to me. I opened Instagram. And there it was. My family smiling in front of the Rialto Bridge. No stress. No drama. I stared at the picture until my vision blurred. They knew. I asked quietly. Grandpa's jaw tightened. Yes. That hurt more than the surgery. Not because they weren't there. Because they chose not to be there. 4 days later I was finally recovering. The tumor was benign. The doctor said I would survive. I still hadn't spoken to my parents. Then suddenly my phone exploded with missed calls. Text after text. Call me. Answer immediately. We need to talk. Not one asked if I was okay. I showed Grandpa. His face darkened. They know. Know what? He took a deep breath. Your grandmother left you something. When you were born, she and I created a special account in your name. She called it your freedom fund. My heart pounded. How much money? Enough to change your life. But Dad said you couldn't help me with tuition. Grandpa shook his head slowly. I gave your father money for both you and Victoria. My stomach dropped. What happened to mine? He looked exhausted. I think your parents spent it. Everything suddenly made sense. The expensive vacations, the kitchen remodel, the designer bags. My college money had disappeared while I worked myself half to death. And now they knew about the Freedom Fund. That's why they're calling, Grandpa said. Not because they loved me. Because they wanted money. One quick, unglamorous truth I learned researching this later. Money set aside for a grandchild, especially anything structured properly by a lawyer, usually can't just be casually borrowed by a parent without consequences. If it's held in your name specifically, that's a legal boundary, not a suggestion. Something to remember if you're ever the one setting money aside for someone you love. The next afternoon my parents finally arrived. Mum rushed in first. Charlotte, baby. She leaned down to hug me. I didn't hug her back. You came fast, I said quietly. Her smile twitched. The flights were difficult. You posted pictures from a Venetian cafe yesterday. Dad walked in behind her, looking guilty. Then Victoria entered, carrying shopping bags. Shopping bags. Into my hospital room. Hey, she said awkwardly. Sophie looked ready to commit a crime. I had brain surgery, I said. I know. That's so crazy. Then actually, we cut the trip short for you. The room went silent. Before anyone could speak again, Grandpa walked in. The second Dad saw him, he stiffened. So you finally found time to visit your daughter, Grandpa said coldly. Mum crossed her arms. This is a family matter. Charlotte is my family too. Grandpa looked at Dad. When's Charlotte's birthday? Dad blinked. March. It's October 15th, I said softly. Grandpa kept going. What's her favorite book? Her best friend's name. What job did she just accept? Silence. Sophie knew every answer. My parents knew none. Then Grandpa said it. You came back because of the money. Mum's face went pale. That inheritance belongs to the family, she snapped. It belongs to Charlotte. Mum exploded. You want the truth. Every time I look at Charlotte, I see Eleanor. The room froze. Your grandmother spent years making me feel like I wasn't good enough, Mum cried. Then Charlotte was born looking exactly like her. I stared at her. So you punished me for that. Tears poured down her face. I didn't mean to. But you did. My voice shook. I spent my whole life trying to earn your love. I worked nonstop. I got perfect grades. Helped everyone. And none of it mattered because every time you looked at me, you saw someone else. She cried harder. I was too tired to comfort her. I turned to Dad. And you watched it happen. He looked down. I didn't know how to fix it. You were my father. He flinched. I was wrong, he whispered. For a moment nobody spoke. Then I finally said the thing I'd waited 22 years to say. I can't keep being invisible. Mum sobbed quietly. Dad stared at the floor. Victoria looked angry and uncomfortable. I don't hate you, I said. But I can't pretend this is normal anymore. Dad swallowed hard. What do you want? I want to be treated like I matter. I looked at Grandpa. He handed me the envelope Grandma had left. "This is yours," he said. I held it carefully. My parents stared at it. I could practically see the calculations happening behind their eyes. "You're wondering if I'll share it," I said. Nobody answered. "I won't," Victoria scoffed. "That's selfish." I looked at her calmly. "I nearly died. You went shopping in Venice." She froze. For the first time in her life, no comeback. Mum wiped her eyes. "I'm sorry, Charlotte. I don't know how to fix this." "Then get help," I said softly. "Talk to a therapist. Deal with your pain instead of putting it on me." She nodded slowly. Dad stepped closer. "I failed you." "Yes." The honesty shocked him. "I can't erase the past," he said. "But can I try to do better?" I studied his face. For once he actually looked at me. Really looked at me. "Call me next week," I said finally. "Ask how I'm doing. Actually listen." He nodded. "I will." 2 weeks later I left the hospital. The tumor was gone. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it a second chance. I didn't move back home. Instead, I used part of Grandma's gift to rent a tiny apartment near the middle school where I'd be teaching. It wasn't fancy. 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, parking lot view. But it was mine. Meanwhile, the fallout hit my family hard. Victoria blocked me on social media. Then Sophie called laughing. "You're not going to believe this. Marcus is reconsidering the engagement." Apparently his family heard everything. I didn't feel happy. It was sad. A week later, the engagement photos disappeared online. Then the announcement vanished too. Mum texted, "Victoria is devastated. Hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long time, then typed, "I'm not responsible for choices she made." Dad started calling every Tuesday exactly like he promised. At first the conversations were painfully awkward. "How are you feeling?" "Better." "What did you eat today?" "Pasta." Tiny questions, tiny steps. But at least he was trying. 3 months later, I stood in my own classroom arranging desks. 26 students would walk through those doors on Monday. Sophie hung posters while stealing my chips. "A little more left," she said. "Your left or my left?" "My left, obviously." I laughed. The room slowly started feeling like home. Bookshelves, a reading corner, a bulletin board that said every voice matters. My phone rang. "Grandpa, how's the classroom?" "Almost ready." His voice softened. "Your grandmother would be proud of you." My eyes stung. "I wish I'd met her. You would have loved each other." He paused. "I found something in the attic. A letter she wrote for her future granddaughter before she died." I nearly dropped the phone. "What?" "She wanted you to have it." Sunday dinner at Grandpa's house became my favorite part of every week. Real family dinners. Real conversations. No competition, no pressure. Just love. 1 month later, someone knocked on my apartment door. Opened it. Dad stood there holding a cardboard box. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. Inside were old photo albums, books, and embroidered handkerchiefs. Grandma Eleanor's things. "Your mother was going to throw them away," Dad admitted. I touched the fabric carefully. For the first time I felt connected to the woman everyone said I looked like. Dad looked around my apartment. Plants in the window, photos on the shelf, student drawings near the kitchen. "You built a nice life," he said softly. I looked at him. He seemed older now. More tired. "I know I can't fix 22 years," he said. "But I want to try." I thought about every missed birthday, every empty seat, every moment I'd begged silently to be noticed. Then I thought about the Tuesday phone calls, the effort, the consistency. "Okay," I said finally. His eyes filled immediately. "But trying means showing up," I said. "I know. Not only when it's convenient." He nodded. "I understand." I made coffee. For the first time in my life, my father stayed long enough to actually talk to me. 6 months after graduation, I was grading papers after school when one of my students stopped by. Oliver, a quiet kid who always sat at the back. "Miss Hartley." "Yeah." He looked nervous. Did you ever feel like nobody sees you? My chest tightened instantly. Yes, I said honestly. For a very long time. What did you do? I looked around my classroom, at the books, the posters, the life I'd built myself. I found people who did see me, I said. And eventually, I learned to see myself too. Oliver nodded slowly. That sounds hard. It is. Then I smiled. But once you know your own worth, you stop begging other people to tell you what you deserve. After he left, I sat quietly, looking at the photo Grandpa had recently found. Grandma Eleanor holding me as a baby, smiling at me like I mattered, like I was precious. For years I thought love was something you earned, something you sacrificed yourself for. Now I understood the truth. Love is who shows up. Love is who stays. 1 year after graduation, Victoria called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice sounded broken. Marcus left. I stayed quiet. My friends disappeared too, she whispered. I think they only liked the money. For the first time in her life, Victoria sounded scared. I'm in debt, she admitted. I don't know what to do. Part of me wanted to say, now you know what it feels like. But I didn't. I didn't want to become the kind of person who enjoys someone else's pain. I'm sorry you're hurting, I said carefully. She started crying. I was awful to you. I think I was jealous. That surprised me. Jealous. You worked hard for everything. People respected you. I never had to earn anything. I leaned back in my chair. Can we ever fix this? She asked. I thought about it honestly. I don't know. But if you're willing to change, maybe someday. 2 years after graduation, Grandpa received an award for Community Educator of the Year. Sophie and I sat in the audience clapping as he slowly walked to the stage. Then he looked straight at me. This award belongs to my granddaughter Charlotte, he said. My throat tightened. 2 years ago, I watched this young woman collapse during graduation. She nearly died. The room fell silent. But she survived. And instead of becoming bitter, she built a life helping children feel seen. I started crying. Sophie cried beside me. Grandpa lifted the award slightly. Charlotte taught me that the people ignored by the world need someone to remember them the most. After the ceremony, I hugged him tightly. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, Charlie girl. My family is still complicated. Dad still calls every Tuesday. Mum sends careful holiday cards. Victoria is in therapy. Sometimes we text, slowly, carefully. But my real family, that's the people who stayed. Grandpa, Sophie, my students, and finally myself. I used to think my mother hated me because something was wrong with me. Now I understand something important. Hurt people sometimes hurt others. My mother never healed from her own pain. And I spent years destroying myself trying to earn love that should have been given freely. The brain tumor terrified me, but it also forced me to finally see the truth. I was never invisible. I was simply surrounded by people who refused to look. So if you feel forgotten, if you feel unseen, if you keep giving love to people who only notice you when they need something, please hear me. You do not have to destroy yourself trying to earn a place in someone's heart. Real love shows up. Real love stays. And sometimes the most important thing you can do is choose yourself. That isn't selfish. It's survival. And finally, after everything that happened, I learned something I wish I'd known years ago. I was always worthy of love, even when they failed to give it. Especially then.